Hey there, I'm Andy Chanley from 88.5 FM, and this is another in our series of home video conference interviews called Here at Home. And today I am joined by the Jayhawks, and very specifically, Karen Grotberg joins me. Good to see you, Karen.
Nice to see you, Andy.
So the new album is out in July. It's called Xoxo. And the first single that you've been hearing from the album is This Forgotten Town that we've been playing here on 88.5 FM. Congratulations on the album first.
Thank you very much. Pretty
It's
proud of it.
Yeah, it's always a big undertaking. Now that was recorded last fall, right? In the before times.
It was in the before times. That's so odd to speak like that, but yes, it was. We first part of November, we were 2 weeks down at Pachyderm in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, just south of the cities, and then early December we went into Flower Studio over in Minneapolis and did a few overdubs, vocal harmonies, and things of that nature.
Nice. And I have to start by disclosing I'm a Jayhawks fan. I put on Rainy Day Music on Sunday when we were having a cookout, and my mother-in-law says, "Who is this band playing? I really like them." So you get Grammy's seal of approval.
Thank you very much for that.
If that helps your ego at all. Before we talk about XOXO, the new album, I wanted to talk about your specific relationship with the band, Karen. You came on the scene like 1992-ish, around there?
92, the fall of 92, yes.
Yeah, and you went on tour, and you stick around for about 8 years, and then you take a powder for about 8 years, and now you've been back in the fold since 2008. By my reckoning, that puts you, I don't know, like number 4 in seniority overall in the Jayhawks, behind Gary Lewis and Mark Perlman and Tim O'Regan. You've logged more time in the band than Mark Olson. Describe your relationship with the project.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say the Jayhawks went away after the Rainy Day Music, so I'm not sure. I think I might be kind of, I don't know, I might be a bit even in there with Tim. I'm not sure. We could do the math later, but so what is the question? I got hung up on that.
It seems to have been a big part of your life over the last 28 years, and then a lot of times it wasn't. That's
I had a baby. I mean, go figure.
Congratulations.
That was the deal. I had a baby, and we didn't have a bus where I could take a nanny or something like that.
Right.
And then the Jayhawks basically were disbanded, and then there was this opportunity to do a festival in northern Spain and get the band back together. And my daughter was 10, and we just thought, oh, she could come home from school and stay for an hour and lock everything up and don't answer the phone until her dad gets home. And so it all worked out for me to come back in when the band started up again. So worked out great.
So now you're a mother and a wife, as well as a professional musician. Describe to me this cycle, and does it just become normal after a while being a touring, working musician and balancing a home life? Because like you said, no new material from 2003 to 2011, but now it's kind of back to every few years a new album. That cycle seems like it would be a challenge to get used to. Intensive, and then kind of not.
Yeah, I think just getting older played a bit of a part. Doing those long bus tours take a lot of energy. And I think I'm more comfortable the way we're doing it now, which is some long weekends and doing them a couple times a month or maybe 2 or 3 times a month, depending on the offers. But I think, I could talk to my daughter. I know there were times where I was just out of town too much, and that was difficult. I felt like I was missing things at home, important things, events that I couldn't show up at. But for the most part, I'm not alone in that. I mean, that's part of the territory, right?
Yeah.
The sacrifice for that, for doing this thing that you love.
Your daughter is now in her 20s, right?
She's 20. Yeah.
She's 20 years old. Tell me about your musical lexicon with her, your relationship with her. Is there a musical simpatico there or not?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she has certain favorite Jayhawks songs. And then I would say there was a period of time, she played the piano and she started upright bass, and she was, I mean, really good. And then sort of, I mean, she was doing a lot by the time you get to high school. She was big into soccer, so she did that. So musically, it became, she was listening to the music of her generation, some of which that, I wasn't particularly fond of, but you don't have to like exactly the same music, and she didn't like exactly the same music that I did. So there was a period where, okay, we'll listen to that radio station,
Right.
but she was also hip to all sorts of other things. I mean, on the bass, um, she was learning things like um, the Bond theme song. I'm trying to think. Pink Panther. She was
Right.
learning jazz things. She was doing she was learning the bass line to the Chain. She
Oh,
was
nice.
learning, I mean, and then what's that ACD song, or what's that one? They used it in a Marvel comic book. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, she learned some cool things, and then she, would listen to the rock and roll station. And now I just got a playlist from her that starts out with some Sinatra uh, cuts, and just, I mean, it's just, she's very eclectic, I'm proud of that. I think she's got great musical taste,
That's
and
neat.
still, yeah, within her generation of whatever's going on in her world too. So
Yeah, well, it's surprising that there was a dark spot there for a while. It seemed to me anyway that the new music coming out didn't excite me all that much, but it's turned around, and I'm excited about a lot of music that's out there right now.
yeah, I would agree with that. There was a period of time where you sort of lose heart, or you feel like a bit of a relic.
Yeah,
It's sort of like,
it-
okay, why can't I? But there's also, um, I understand what you're saying, but I think meanwhile there were still people, you know, doing something else that I could, you know,
yeah. Well,
take into my heart, that was more part of my background. I guess I'd put it that way. But on the other hand, I went to a Sam Smith concert with my daughter and her boyfriend, and that was fabulous. I met the keyboard player in London, and he was like, "Yeah, if we're in town, in your town, give us a ring." And he was so generous about that. So
that's nice. Well, on those down times, it's a good time to go back and listen to some of that Sinatra and,
yeah,
and
no, I
catch up
mean,
on
I
that.
agree.
Let's talk about
This town,
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about XOXO.
yeah.
Which, like we said, was recorded in the before times, and this time the the songwriting and the singing is split up much more equally across members of the group. At first, I was thinking of like Mardi Gras, the last CCR album, where John Fogerty just digs in his heels and says, "Nope, you guys are writing your songs. I'm not going to have anything to do with it." And it was a very much, "This is mine and that's your." This seems not that at all. This seems like people that have known each other for a long time and are friends are finally, kind of taking a more equal turn at center stage.
Yeah, and I think Gary's been democratic before this, but I think he just sort of ramped that up a bit and just said everybody's got to present. I think he had come out with his solo album, and maybe didn't have maybe entire albums worth of already shored up Jayhawks songs. Shored up's probably not the right word, but fleshed out maybe. He had a lot of great ideas, but opened it up and opened it up more. It's not like we hadn't contributed before, but this was just a whole new day. Like, bring
Yeah.
in songs. I want you all in here. I want everybody writing. I want everybody singing their own stuff that they've written, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think there was a question of, okay, how can we still make this cohesive, because we've got four different voices. But in the end, I will say that Jayhawks still explore things. We're still fresh and new, but it still sounds like the Jayhawks.
Yeah. Well, and now, of course, as the luck would have it, the universe has decreed that now you can't share any stage. You can't get out
I know.
and do this. Tell me how you've coped with the disappointment of that.
I'm doing a lot of gardening. My backyard looks better than it has in years. I've got the time. and I've got help from somebody else who's not working. And but there is talk of us trying to do something, from a remotely with enough space to be safe, and we'll see how that works. But it's strange. But Gary said something on the, his show, the thing that he's doing. And he said that for, musicians and artist types, he said, we do tend to spend a fair amount of time on our own at home working on our own projects. So it's, in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily that different, but not making a living was very different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of trepidation there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly, on one hand, it's been very difficult. On the other hand, it's kind of introduced these new efficiencies, these new ways of doing things that
Right.
probably aren't going to change. And in some ways, maybe it makes, collaboration in music even easier now that we've been forced to do it from a distance. Maybe, that memory, muscle memory might allow for, better collaboration from here on.
We'll see. I think I think it's also, there's time to just go into that headspace and just see what comes out, and not have it be interrupted by, oh yeah, well now we're going here and going there. Although I gotta say, I miss that. We miss being on the stage, and there were places I was looking forward to going, and all those shows got canceled, and I'm not sure what that's going to look like in the future. So let's hope that because even if venues open at partial capacity, how's that going to look? How are they going to make it pay for themselves? So there's going to have to be some combination, like you said, going into the future. But as far as collaboration, yeah, I'm not. I don't necessarily find myself. Haven't been a collaborator in the past necessarily, except when the Jayhawks are doing some group rights. So I don't know, but I think, yeah, definitely we can work on that from a distance. It's just so weird,
I know.
FaceTiming your friends with a glass of wine. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had more than a few glasses of wine over,
Yeah, me
over
too.
Zoom.
So I'll be right back. I'm going out to my kitchen. That's so bizarre.
Got to fix another G&T.
Yeah.
So in those times that you were able to tour, going around the world and playing your music for people everywhere has its joys in itself. And then on top of that, being in, an internationally known band like Jayhawks has afforded you the opportunity to work with people like, Peter Buck of REM and,
Yep.
Ray Davies, the Kinks, and so forth.
Yeah.
Those have to be, pinch me moments where you're like, that's a kink over there.
Yeah. The kink. Yeah.
As he likes to be called.
I know. Uh, so when you say that, yeah, the whole thing was a pinch me moment. I mean, just something huge in that memory bank. But in the studio over at Conk it's just a bit like being in a theater production. There was a certain thing where he was trying to get me to deliver a vocal track in a specific way, and he gesticulated like theater gesticulations. He's like this, to create this emotion. And I think we were working on that for a few hours. It was intense. And then so that was like theater. And the other thing is that he's going to try to get what he wants to get, and
Mhm.
he will push. And the outcome of that was that I think he pushed me into a place that I didn't think I could go. And it made me, it forced me to, just try to reach a little higher. And in the end, it gave me confidence of, what I thought I could do, and then what I wound up being able to do, with him
Yeah.
directing. So that was cool. And then it culminated with the whole Proms in the Park performance, where not only did I was playing, the Kinks songs on a stage in Hyde Park, and then also singing, getting up from the keyboard, walking over, picking up a microphone and singing next to Ray. And yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And,
very cool.
there's a saying that when people don't disagree, it takes two. And like,
Yeah.
Ray and Dave Davies, they can't even agree on how to pronounce their last name. It's,
Yeah, Davis.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's been loggerheads for quite some time. So it takes a strong personality on both sides, I think.
It really does, and they're two exceptionally creative people as well. So, I mean, I guess maybe it's par for the course, and they're
Yeah.
brothers. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. A lot of
it's all
baggage.
love, though. In the end, I think it's all love.
Well, tell me just a couple more things I wanted to ask you
Sure.
about. Tell me about your first instrument. Was it the keyboards? Was it a piano?
Yes, it was, and sort of playing by ear when I had access to a piano, which I didn't for quite a long time. And then, I did have a guitar at one point. I can play a few chords, but it's still in me to want to be more of a guitar player. I just don't know if I can bend my fingers around at this point, but I'm going to work on that. I played clarinet in the band, but I didn't take that to any higher level, past high school. So yeah, I have a mandolin. I mean, for a while I carried around a mandolin and was, trying to mess around with that, but no chamber music in my history.
And what do you think if music didn't exist, if it wasn't an option, what do you think you would be doing right now?
Oh my goodness. I always had difficulty being in a building for long periods of time. I've done it a lot. I would say that the second thing that I was happiest doing was working as a gardener professionally in some very lovely estates with large gardens, and a great way to spend the day. Even on a rainy day, you go out, you're in nature by a lake, have your lunch, take a swim, go back and pull the weeds or mulch or plant or whatever. That was very satisfying to me.
Well, so now,
Just zen.
yeah, well, now that you're spending more time in the garden, you're more self-actualized than ever. This is great.
Yeah, I am. It's actually, well, and for a long time I wasn't excited anymore. And then when you're on tour, you come home and oh my gosh, the weeds are overgrown and now it's a mess and this didn't make it through the winter. And now it's 95 and humid and I have an opportunity because I'm home, but I don't want to go outside because it's ugly. I've had some fabulous help from a girlfriend of mine who is also unemployed at the moment, and she bikes over. We hang out in the garden at a distance, different areas, so we can still hear each other speak. And she has helped me wrestle this monster, you know, into something of beauty, and I'm excited again. So
Awesome. That's awesome.
yeah,
Well, you remind me that I have to go pull some weeds myself. So I'll let you go.
and talk about that pool cover, man.
I'm telling you. Before we get started, I'm getting, and all during my first couple of questions, it's ping, ping. What do you think about
Yeah.
this pool cover? I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Karen.
I just think it's cool that you have a pool.
It's dinky, but man,
Yeah.
any port in a storm,
No
in
kidding.
Los
Yeah.
Angeles. Last question. What's the best meal you've made while you've been in quarantine?
Oh, I've been making these fabulous salads with heart of palm, which Mark Perlman has turned me on to, and some wild caught shrimp, and just sautéed in butter with garlic. And then I have other sorts of vegetables in there, and then probably a little bit of buffalo mozzarella on the top.
Man,
Refreshing. It's been fabulous.
yeah.
Asparagus, gotta have asparagus.
Very summery. I love it.
Yeah.
Karen Grotberg, great to talk to you. The new album is called Xoxo. It comes out in July. I hope that that very soon we get an opportunity to see you in person. When you guys come to LA, you got to come visit us at the station.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you so much, Andy, for having me on the show.
All right. Karen Grotberg on 88.5 FM.
Take care.